All right, we're rolling.
Nice.
Dude, Fahim Anwar, thanks for doing the pod, man.
Yeah, we were talking about that before recording, but it's like we're interviewing ourselves, you know?
Basically.
It's Latif on Latif.
I know we should just do that.
Yeah,
Well, I only have sisters, so you're like the brother I didn't have, so.
dude. And we didn't plan this black shirt thing or
No.
the curly hair thing. I mean,
Yeah, or being born this way.
true. This is a real treat.
We're both from Pacific Northwest too, so.
What part are you from again?
Vancouver.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seattle.
And I lived in Seattle for about 2 years.
Nice.
Capitol Hill, baby.
Damn, you were in the city proper. I was in the burbs, but I would drive into the city for college and then also stand up.
Yeah.
But I was never like living there, you know? That'd be a different experience.
I mean, I lived in this condo above the recording studio for this small label I was working for.
Uh-huh.
And so it was like they had us upstairs and we just walked downstairs and start working.
That's pretty cool.
It was cool. And
That's like if you live above a subway, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
some of those apartment units that are above like a what is it? Like a pink barrier or something.
Oh yeah. You just get access.
Yeah.
I always like when you go to New York and you see those apartment buildings like where the subway goes by your window or like so close to your apartment. You're like,
Oh
that must
yeah.
be crazy.
Yeah, you know, I was in DC doing shows at the Improv there, and I'm just walking around being a tourist. And then this helicopter just like so close to the ground. It's like it's Trump and he's flying to the White House. And I'm like, it was so foreign to me. But that's just like life for them over there, you know?
Yeah.
Where you're just going to the grocery store and you hear this, and like, oh, Trump's home. Like that's normal. And he just lands in a giant lawn and the White House is right there. It's just surreal that that's people's lives, you know?
Yeah. Or I guess now if you live next to like Trump Tower or something and he comes home, it's like crazy.
Yeah.
Craziness. This whole thing. We're in quarantined. I gotta try giving myself a haircut. I had to put so much like I have full Kramer right now. Like if I didn't put like water it
that's
down,
the thing about curly hair. Like if it's dry out of the shower, it's exponential. We've got like a Kaepernick thing going on.
Yeah.
but you add some moisture to it, it's like and no one knows.
I always joke that I've never had the same hair day twice. So,
dude, totally. So like, I'll have a good hair day, and I'm like, I got to do this again, but it's impossible to replicate.
Yeah. Or you see a good photo of yourself, you're like, that's the haircut I want. And you like show your barber, like, you did this before. He's like, I can't do it. I can't get you back there. I'm sorry.
Or like friends will be like, hey, you should do your hair this way. Be like, I wish I could recreate it, man. This is just a shooting star. Enjoy it for what it is.
Totally. And so for those who don't know, you're a comedian, right?
Yeah, I'm a stand-up comedian when that used to be a thing.
Full-time comedian, actor. You were in that great sketch show, the Brown sketch show of
Goatface.
Goatface comedy, which I really enjoyed.
Thanks, man.
That Baba Knows Best was just hit too close to home.
Oh, I know. But yeah, that one I kind of knew would be great. Like it would hit a lot of people. There's just so many jokes in there that are inside baseball, but universal enough for people of all walks of life to get.
Any culture with like a dad who's not that, sensitive.
Yeah, and like the immigrant experience, like any immigrant dad, it just really, I think, rings home. Just sort of like no emotion, grades first. Yeah.
Did you call your dad Baba?
They do. Some do. We didn't. I didn't call, but like I have some cousin stuff who would say Baba.
Yeah, I did.
Where are you from again?
Morocco.
Morocco, yeah.
I'm born in Vancouver. My dad's Moroccan, and my mom is English heritage. So most Moroccans are a little darker than me. So I
feel like people say that about Afghans too. Like people are like, oh, you don't look Afghan, like Afghans. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
Are you 100%?
Yeah, I'm 100%. I'm like talk that up with my mom and dad. I had no say in the matter.
Do other Afghans say that to you, or just like people on the street?
Yeah, other Afghans.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I don't think white people know what Afghans look like. They wouldn't be like, you're Afghan?
Right.
I have a deep knowledge of different ethnicities.
Well, I mean, I get Persian the most. Like,
well, out here, of course, it's like you're either Latino or Persian or Jewish, and that's it. You know?
I get all three of those.
I'll get that too. I was in K-Town, and there was this kind of little corner store I would go to that's on the Latino side of town. and I would go in, and like the lady behind the counter would start speaking Spanish to me,
Yeah.
and I would just nod because I liked that she thought that I was, Mexican.
Right, just slow?
Like,
Didn't
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I just liked assuming that identity,
Yeah.
and I just never opened my mouth. I would just kind of like do body language and nod
Yeah, yeah.
instead of being like, I
And
don't
go
speak
along with it?
Spanish. Right? Yeah.
And then what got you into comedy? Because to, Afghan parents, I'm sure they were super
Uh
supportive of this
huh.
whole thing?
Yeah, they kind of pushed me into comedy. They go, fuck this doctor stuff.
Yeah,
I love Woody Allen. You need to do this.
yeah.
No, I mean, I just love. Yeah, I grew up in Seattle. I grew up very American. I loved comedy. I loved The Simpsons. I loved SNL. Like, yeah, I would watch SNL religiously, and
Mhm,
then I wanted to be on that show, and I was like, how do people get on it? I researched it, and you either got on through everyone who's on there is either a stand-up comedian or an improv performer.
mhm,
Second City, Groundlings, all that. So I researched those. You have to pay money. It's in New York. It's in LA. It's in Chicago. I'm a kid in Seattle. So
mhm.
that's not really a thing. And you got to pay money. So I'm like, stand up just seemed more doable because it's just you. You just have to rely on you.
Right, it's all yourself, you don't have to deal with a troupe
Yeah,
or paying
totally. Yeah,
fees.
troop, and you don't have to pay money. You don't have to
Yeah,
worry about
yeah.
classes. It's just it's almost like driving Uber or something. It's like it's on your own time. You just decide how much you put into it, how much you don't.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'll do stand up.
I feel like our generation, like, Simpsons was so important, like, it just that was, like, the baseline, like, "Oh, things are funny."
You know why that was such a special show? Because it's a cartoon, number one,
Mhm.
and when you're a kid, that's like the first thing you watch is a cartoon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, regardless of what's going on in the cartoon, we're just so accustomed to the cartoon. And then for that level of comedy to be injected into a cartoon, it's almost like an immersion course in comedy for like you're teaching these young kids comedy super early in life, like
Mhm.
sophisticated comedy.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's different than if I was watching Rugrats or something, or whatever. Those shows have their own place or whatever. But like, think of the comedy greats that passed through The Simpsons,
Oh, yeah, Brent
like
Forrester,
Conan.
Conan,
Yeah, so
yeah.
many titans. And so it's almost like those are your comedy teachers. It's like you're like in a special class or something, or what is it, or like a gifted comedy class, just watching Simpsons
Yeah,
that
an
early.
advanced class. Like, because
Totally.
they're shooting above your level, but you remember it. Like, I remember, like, understanding jokes that were, like, a little bit ahead of me or just concepts because it was just being introduced. You're like, "Oh, that is
Yeah,
funny."
and your brain is a sponge,
Yeah.
so even though every joke doesn't hit, it's almost like if you play basketball with boys that are 3 years older than you,
Right.
you're gonna progress faster than just your own age.
Yeah.
So it was just such an early introduction. Like, not that I wasn't conscious about this, but now that I'm adult looking back, just teaching kids and being exposed to like absurdism and
Mhm.
silliness and just
Right.
all these different types of ways of being funny.
I felt like I don't know if you watched Seinfeld as a kid, but started watching
I
that as
did,
well.
yeah. So my parents loved Seinfeld, and that was the thing we would do every Thursday. We would watch
Yeah.
that, NBC. What was it? It was Thursday night, so it was their like
Yeah.
massive, yeah, must see TV.
Must see TV. And then that was, like, kind of advanced for the age I was watching it, but it was also
Yeah,
because you have these, like, okay, you're watching Simpsons, probably, getting those, and then, like, you get Seinfeld, which is also a little bit ahead of, like, where you are mentally, but you learn, like, of
yeah.
relationships for better or worse, and,
Yeah, and
but it
then
was
you
great.
have that moment when you watch Seinfeld when you were older, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't get any of this,"
Yeah, I'm
or like,
rewatching it now in quarantine, and it's amazing.
yeah, or you're like, "This is what the contest was about." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Y
how would you know as a child?
Right, or if you did know, you're like, "I think I know what this is," but you've never done it or don't even know.
Right.
And now with the quarantine, what's comedy life like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because stand up is on hold, and that was such a part of my everyday life.
Mhm.
I would go to the comedy store and all these other clubs, and just I was always kind of working on a bit,
Right.
working on a chunk of material, and that's just been on pause. That's not a thing right now for a while. It's not. I don't mind it because I think whenever you take a break from stand up, and I've talked to other stand ups who feel this way too. When you're not doing stand up, you feel like everyone else is getting ahead of you.
Mhm.
So there's this kind of anxiousness, like, I'm missing out. But when the world is on pause, it's an easier pill to swallow because you're like, no one's getting ahead. We're
Yeah.
all stuck in this, you know?
No one's getting
So
ahead of
there,
anyone.
yeah, no one's getting ahead of anyone.
Yeah.
But a byproduct of this quarantine is, I like different forms of comedy. I love stand up. I've been doing it for a long time. I love sketch.
Mhm.
Stand up and sketch are my two favorite things in the world. And I would do like little sketch on IG sometimes. And I would do some stand up clips on IG too.
Mhm.
But now that stand up is not a thing for the time being, it's kind of refreshing just to be like, oh, I could funnel all my efforts into just like sketches. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you'd be like, what's that split? Should
Right.
I be focusing more on stand up? Should I do more digital stuff? You're
Right.
always torn as an artist, like what's going to kick the ball further down the field.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And now it takes that mental mathematics off where you're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is all I can do.
Or even like how much should you be spending on your online at all? And now it's like, well, 100 because that's what's out there. So,
Yeah, like that's my only stage at this
yeah.
point in time. So that's kind of nice. Like, oh, any funny idea I get, I just need to funnel it into whatever's available to me for my audience, which is an IG story or
Mhm.
TikTok or something in my feed or like.
Yeah. I like the two Fahim stories where you kind of like you're both characters.
Yeah, well, that's a thing that I was doing. Like I had been doing over the last year or two. Whenever I get an idea, I would just kind of just play out the scene where I'm both people because it's
Yeah.
easy. And I think on Instagram, people like it that way, where it's just very quick and dirty.
Yeah.
People like seeing something funny and being like, "Oh, I could have done that on my own."
Right, right, right. It's relatable.
There's something very novel about that. That like,
Mhm.
oh, something great was created with all the tools that are at my disposal.
Mhm.
So it's pure idea driven and creativity. Whereas you see a Michael Bay movie or something that's so far out of reach, it's this other thing.
Yeah, yeah,
And there's a place for that. Like the Cineplexodian is for that.
yeah. Right.
That
The
you know
arc
what I
light.
mean? But on IG, no one wants to watch like some Dunkirk level shit on
Right.
Instagram. And that's something I learned too. Like back in the day, remember when YouTube sketch was a big thing?
Yeah.
So you would have like a buddy do boom, it would look nice and all that, and we would put that on Instagram, and it wouldn't really take off because that's not what it is.
Mhm. And the
Like
more
that
you
much
strive,
effort,
yeah.
yeah, that much effort into a disposable thing
Yeah.
like Instagram is
It's
it's
too
apples
try
and
hard.
oranges.
Yeah.
It's too try hard. That's not the
Yeah.
place for it.
Yeah, yeah. And the more you try to strive for it, the more the glaring holes in the production become. Like, because
Yeah.
there's a big, like you said, a big step between you and like Michael Bay. And so if you try to spend that, you have a boom guy, you have a camera, you do all these things, and then it starts to be like, oh, well, it's like 30% or 50%, and people start picking holes at it. You can't pick holes at a guy doing two characters.
Sure. And it's sort of you learn what type of content to do on what medium.
Right.
And that's true of a lot of different things. It's sort of like if I was doing some polished special stuff at an open mic,
Right.
even though they're great jokes, people are like, why the fuck is he trying so hard, or like all
Yeah.
this gloss at a 5-person open mic?
Right. Just
Whereas
leaning.
if
Yeah.
whereas if yeah, whereas if you have a notebook out and you're just throwing some ideas out there,
Yeah.
that will do better than your Madison Square Garden polished jokes.
Yeah, I do see like sometimes like New York guys come in or from other town like do open mics in LA and like no one knows
Hmm.
them generally.
Yeah.
And so they'll do like their act that they're preparing for something and everyone loves it. But if you came back
Hmm.
next week and did it again, they'd be like, all right, take it
Well, we've heard
easy.
it.
We've heard it. Yeah. But like
Yeah.
like once in a while, like a new guy's like, oh wow, he's really bringing it. It's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the comedy store, that's like your main home, right? You've been past there for a while. Your name's on the wall.
Yeah, that's my home club. That's the first place that kind of when you come to LA, there's three major clubs I would say: the Laugh Factory, the Improv, and the Comedy Store.
Hmm.
And the Comedy Store was the first place to kind of co-sign me, and I became a regular there. So yeah, I love that place. And I'm at all the places. I'm on all the clubs now, but
Hmm.
you always remember the first
Oh yeah.
because it's so hard. You're just a runt, and no one really gives a fuck about you. So when someone finally does, it really like holds a place.
Oh yeah, everyone's trying to squeeze through the same funnel, the same tiny little
Hmm.
door. If you were doing it again today, would you still make the comedy store number one priority, or do you think there's like
Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad that I'm there because there's three. It's like the last place that's like that. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? the clubs have different personalities. I would say the improv is like international waters. It's a little more like corporate.
Mm-hmm.
They play nice for the very industry friendly. A lot of showcases will happen there.
Mm-hmm.
The Laugh Factory is kind of like a bizarro comedy store, just where like they kind of have their guys. You know what I mean? There's like,
Yeah.
and you can't like hang out there unless you're like a bigger comic or something like yeah, unless you're on the show and they know you and stuff like that. You can't just be somebody rolling into town and like hang out.
Yeah.
There's two layers of security, you know what I mean?
2 layers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes you
yeah,
get you pass the first
you
guy.
get past the first guy, the second guy will kung fu grip you and you're out. There was a time when I got past there.
Yeah.
Even after being passed, they'd be like, "What do you do?" Just this hassle.
Yeah.
So, in the comedy store, you can hang out no matter who you are, which is kind of nice. It's hard to get up, but at least you can like hang.
Yeah. And it feels like there's like tenure there, like you passed and now you can do what you want. There's like,
Yes.
it seems like there's less pressure to like always do well. I mean, you always want to do well as you can, but it
Well,
feels
it's like a
more
family. Once you
Yeah.
get to a certain point, it's like a family. And like they know I've been there so long, and this will happen. It's like a frat house too. Like
big time.
where they know who I am. They know what my skills are. Like I don't have to impress anybody anymore there.
Yeah,
So if I want to like really get experimental or try some crazy bit, I don't have to worry about like, oh, am I going to get less spots or will I get like a worse time slot? It's like, it's great when an establishment knows you for what you are and you can take the biggest creative swings you want.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, when I go there, I feel like once or twice a month on a produced show is usually where I get up, and I'm bringing it every time because I'm like, I did not.
No, but that's kind of that's a lesson. Look, I wasn't always able to be in this place. I've been doing it a very long time, and I think one of the lessons I learned like later than I needed to learn in comedy was knowing what to do on what show.
Right.
I love new material. Like I love when a bit works for the first time, and I'm always chasing that.
Yeah.
And I think when I was younger, I would do that at a fault, where maybe I was on a show where I needed to impress rather than find a new bit.
Oh, interesting.
Sometimes you need to impress before you can, or like find out what shows you could do to scratch the itch of new stuff.
Right.
Like some weird open mic, sure, do it there. But if it's like a showcase, I don't need to try out this new bit that I'm really excited about on this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
I started a show at West Side that hopefully we get to keep it when this all comes back, but it was called Tight 5. So people did 10 minutes of new material, 10, 10, 10, and then the same comedians came back and did like a tighter 5. So that it was kind of a way of like being fully experimental, but also coming back into the crowd and being like,
this is what I can do.
Oh, by the way, I can really do this. So you could be as free as you want and come back and just leave on like a high note.
You know, you might want to reverse it though, because there is this thing where even if you're like, I've had shows where you're just not connecting with the audience or the energy, they're not into it and they just don't like you as a person. so that'll happen sometimes where they're like, I just don't like this guy's vibe. You know, it doesn't happen often anymore, you know, but like there is that thing. And once an audience has decided like, I'm just not into this person's vibe.
Yeah.
You could have the funniest joke in the world and they're not going to accept it.
Right.
So if you're on that show, I would suggest doing the Tight 5 first and then new material after.
Interesting.
Give the people the best shot of the goodwill of the audience. Because if they hate the comic from the 10 minutes,
it's hard to dig out of that hole.
It could be the best 5 in the world and they don't give a fuck. They're like, nah, I hate this guy.
Well, we'll get you on it when it comes back and reverse it. So
nice. Well, I mean, I'll do it either way. It doesn't matter.
It'll be the remix.
Yeah.
No, it's good because a lot of it is likability. It's like, and it's a split second thing. Like someone walks on with like a weird hat, you're like, I hate this guy.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Because as humans, like the first like 30 seconds of seeing someone, and we're like, is this person a threat? Do I like their face?
Or they want like I've noticed just people like to size people up. Humans don't like ambiguity.
Right.
They like to know what's going on immediately. Even when it comes to stand up. When they see a performer come out, they wonder like, what's this guy about?
Yeah.
And the longer they can't figure it out, I think, I don't know, like the worse the set is. That's why I think if you're a character, if you're a personality, like a Joey Diaz goes up, he smashes every time because he's great, you know, but he's also like, what's up, motherfuckers, out the gate. all right, I know what this guy
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like
Right,
Theo Vaughn goes up, like, hey, like I know who this guy is.
right,
He's got the mullet and everything. Like, you don't have to worry about doing that mental math.
right, right.
Whereas, say I go up and I'm like, hey, what's up, guy? It's sort of still like, what's his thing?
Yeah,
Here, I'm gonna
yeah.
turn the light on. But like, if I, that's why I always try to do like a short joke up top, just to like let them know, like, oh, this guy knows. Okay, this guy knows how to write a joke, or this guy's funny. It's all about earning the audience's trust as quick as possible, and then you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Do you feel that part of that intro with you is telling them about your background and like your ethnicity, or do you skip over that in terms of your comedy?
What's the question?
Is that a
This is my
gi?
white jacket. No, it's a white jean jacket from a video shoot I did yesterday. You can catch it on Instagram, whoever's
Oh,
watching
check
this.
it out.
Yeah. So what was the question?
Do you feel that like you have to address like your ethnic ambiguity, or do you just kind of be like, I'm
No, that's the
funny,
thing.
deal with it?
Like, I don't, it's not like me being Afghan is like having no arm or something.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm just such a fan of all sorts of ideas. I want to talk about uh, what's interesting me, that interesting, what is it? I don't even know what this word is, but like whatever I care about that day, you know?
Hmm.
I don't want to have to address my ethnicity every time. If I have an observation or a joke about it, I'll do it if I think the idea is strong enough. But I never feel like, oh, they're gonna want to know what I am. Like, this is America. This is like a
Yeah,
huge
yeah.
melting pot. Like, if you haven't seen somebody who isn't white yet, that's on you.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
I don't have to explain my existence
Hmm.
when I do stand up comedy. And I like that I'll do 15-minute sets at the store and my ethnicity doesn't come up once.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the fact that I talk like this and I'm talking about these very American things, whatever it is, it almost makes it more powerful for minorities that, like, oh, they're just like us,
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
than oh, my dad this, blah blah.
I also feel the same way. Like I don't feel like I need to do like 10 minutes on brown comedy or like
I
maybe
feel
for
like
me personally.
yeah, it informs my POV.
Yeah,
I always say, like, I'm a comedian who happens to be Afghan.
right.
If anyone throws the label Afghan comedian, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because it makes it sound like that's my whole hook, like that's my angle.
Right, right,
And
right.
and and I like to think like I'm funny for, like, by white standards. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, right.
people have this weird comedy mental math that they do, and like they put ethnic comics like over here, maybe subliminally or and all that stuff.
Right, right, right. You just want to be funny first.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm just a funny comedian. That's like, comedy is all I care about.
yeah,
Ideas are paramount. That's it.
yeah. And it's your full-time job. Like this is how you earn a living. And
Yeah, full time thing.
for how many years?
Long time. I think I left Boeing 2000, like that motorcycle baby. Yeah. I mean, what do you saw? Like, what? I don't have that in me where I'm like, I need a loud motorcycle.
No, it's horrible. I just the death, like how you would die so quickly.
Yeah, I was in this biomechanical engineering class back in college, and they said the number one cause of leg amputations is motorcycles.
Oh yeah.
So those are just statistics for you.
In LA, you see people like doing makeup on the phone, like eating a sandwich. You're like, that's the guy who's gonna kill you.
Yeah. Here, what was the question before the motorcycle
Oh,
guy
you're
came
doing
by?
full-time comedy since you left Boeing?
Yeah. So I think I left in 2009 or 2010. I quit. So 10 years, like 10, 11 years.
Was it hard to like turn in that pink slip to Boeing and be like, I'm out?
No, it was because I never really like cared about it. There are worse jobs. The way I describe it is, a lot of people do jobs that they don't exactly love or whatever. It was always a
Hmm.
means to an end. So everything kind of went the way it was supposed to. I didn't know what the timeline of it all would be, but I knew the goal was have a day job where I could support myself and be in a position of power when it comes to my art,
Hmm.
instead of doing things for money and getting you off course.
Yeah, yeah. In some ways, having a job enables you to put more into your art because
Yeah,
you don't have to take things you don't
that's
love.
how I feel, because I think there's this romanticized version for people who aren't good at school or just want to, like, not even pay attention to school. They're like, fuck it, I need to live in my car. I need to put everything into my art.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then there's still like a waiter, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the first half of the day. So it's like you're still eating those hours out of your day, but you're being a waiter instead of having like maybe a better job than if you say you went to school for 4 years studying something a little more substantial.
Mm-hmm.
Like instead of treating college like a party, maybe if you kind of half and half it, like really buckled down and then had a little bit of fun, but not like all fun. Don't treat college like summer camp.
Yeah.
You'll be better off if you are striving for this artistic dream, because then you don't need to worry about money. And yeah, you'll have the day job in your cubicle, and then or whatever it is, and then you have time for your art, and you're not worried about money and doing all these odd jobs that take you away from what you really want to do.
Mm-hmm. I guess like different people too. Like there's a thing, like you could have your back against the wall and be like, I gotta make it or I'm gonna die. But there's
I
also that
guess, but is
that's
that
not
how you need to
everyone.
succeed? You need to like paint yourself into a corner.
I mean, I think for everyone it's different. You know, some people have that story where they quit everything right away or never did it. But I agree with
Yeah.
you ultimately, and maybe it's my, ethnic heritage as well. But like getting like a theater degree seems like a waste of
Hmm.
time, especially now. Like
Yeah.
think about how long you've been in the biz now, and you see
Yes.
all the people around, and you know that that is not a requirement to get anything.
Yeah, that's the thing too. And it's funny how people so far away from the business and industry have it all figured out.
Right.
Maybe that's just a testament to youth. Like when you're 17 or 16, you're like, no, I need a theater degree.
Yeah, yeah.
And it doesn't even dawn on you to like maybe ask someone in Hollywood and be like, hey, do I need a theater degree? Because
Right.
they would tell you no immediately. You know what I mean?
There's so many lawyers who have gone to school, become a lawyer, and never set foot in a lawyer's office, or like, and they
Yeah.
get it and they hate it, or never gone to a hospital as a doctor. It's like, they should be like, they should give you a little, hey, you want to study this? I'm gonna take you, show you what it is. Are you sure you still want to do
That or
this?
something as simple as an email or a phone call
Yeah,
to someone who does the thing. I don't know why that's not stressed more in life. You know, when they do that career day or whatever, like, or what you should, these type of tests, like what you should be.
yeah,
Whenever a kid decides what they want to be, they should make them have a phone call with that person and like really find out what's up. Because it's this idealized version of what the thing is when they're a kid. But if you talk to an actual lawyer or you talk to an actual person with a theater degree, they might tell you otherwise.
and that's what I love about LA though, is like, there's no one asks you like what school you went to. It's all like, what can you do? It's all merit based for the most part. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like, pedigree or this, that. It's like, are you funny? Are you a good actor? Can you rap? Like it's like, what can you actually do?
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you're like a criminal or whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like,
Speaking of rap.
doesn't can they still or actor, whatever, it doesn't matter.
No, it
Or
doesn't.
stand up. I always think about like no one looks at your criminal background to do stand up comedy, or nobody wants to know what degree you have.
Yeah.
It's very results driven. Can you do the job?
Yeah. And it makes the town kind of wild, wild westy, but something about it like still really appeals to me. Like I like that people kind of they get a fair shake. And to a certain degree, if you're talented, it does rise to the top here.
Hmm.
It's not always overnight. Sometimes like I remember like when Wiz Khalifa started breaking and people were like, oh, where's this guy from? He's just overnight. It was like, yeah, overnight 10 years. Like things
Mm.
take a long time before they seem like overnight.
Oh, I know. Like even like with me, sometimes if somebody writes something or they'll say to this young comic, and I've been fucking
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
it for like 17 years. You know what I mean?
17 years.
Yeah, a long ass time.
Wow.
So yeah, stand up comedy is one of those things that just takes forever.
Yeah.
I think more so than any other art form too.
Yeah, I mean, you have to find, depending on when your age start, you got to figure out who you are. You got to learn how to be funny. You got to get
It's
comfortable on stage.
multifaceted too. Even if you're funny, like it takes a while for people to give a fuck about what you have to say. And that just comes with how long you've been in the game and your peers and perception. And just the longer I've been doing it, I've realized there's like being talented and people giving a fuck
Hmm.
are two very different things. And they're not related, you know? Like they're, yeah, mutually exclusive.
Yeah, because people have to want to care about you to follow you, be invested. And like,
Well, there's this other element of it too, where it's very high school. I think once it becomes cool to like someone, and this is true of any art, once it becomes cool to like this person, that's when things start happening.
Yeah.
Because people want to feel like they're in the know, and it's like a hit band or something. You want to feel like you're a part of it.
Right. Like, oh, I like Dave Chappelle too, kind of thing.
Yeah, or like if two industry people are at lunch and they go, "Oh, who do you like?"
Yeah. Yeah.
and they just say this random ass name that no one has ever said, there's nothing to win from that. But if they say a name that's kind of like almost going to break, so they can point to it and be like, "I called it."
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like a safe bet,
Yeah.
but a little bit before them breaking, so that they look clairvoyant and like they know what they're doing.
Right. They're like, it's like about to turn red on the roulette wheel and they put their chips down and be like,
Yeah,
see?
yeah. It's like yeah, exactly. Whereas someone really, really funny that isn't on the cusp like that, they're not going to say that name
Right.
because there's nothing in it for them.
Interesting. Do you feel that you're that name?
I think I've been like a really slow burn. It's so crazy. Like I've always heard dude, you've been under the radar for so many years, you know?
But I mean, I've seen things like, oh, Bill Burr mentioning he likes you. And like, these are like big shout outs.
Yeah, for a comedian. And I think that's kind of what sustained me through this long of a career without like the pop or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just the respect of my peers and all that, and being a comics comic and being talked about like that, like artistically, that's very fulfilling
Yeah.
and makes you feel like you're on the right path. But those little blips or whatever, they're neat and they feel good and they keep you going. But big picture, they didn't translate to anything. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's neat, but it's not like overall career convertible.
Right. Do you feel that like what you want out of your career is to be a full-time touring comedian, or do you feel it's more like TV show? Or what would make that say you popped, like what would you want out of
Yeah.
that pop?
For me, success or like dream scenario is like known as a stand-up,
Mm-hmm.
like an established stand-up, and like always do that. I always want to do that, but then be able to write, act, and direct in my own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a Ricky Gervais or a Larry David, or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So just to be a comedic voice
Right.
where people know me as like a comedic brand, like a Hannibal or like
Right.
these guys where it's like I'm a funny guy and all that. And if you do stand up, you know who I am, but not like public consciousness.
You do have that first name. I mean, Fahim. You can say Fahim.
Fahim?
In LA, definitely you could say Fahim.
Yeah, I
And we
guess.
know who you're talking
I
about.
think part of the slow burn though too is there's been no blueprint for. I think they just don't know what box to put me in. You know what I mean? Because my name's Fahim. I'm Afghan American, but I talk about just funny is funny. You know, like I don't do this identity politics thing. It's not by choice, or it's just the
It's just not what you find funny.
yeah, it's not what I find funny.
Yeah, yeah.
I grew up on The Simpsons. I grew up on SNL. I grew up on Conan. I just like funny for funny. And I think that's just incongruent with what has been in vogue the past few years, where it's just like, let's talk about like the gay experience or this disability, or to really lean into the whatever your identity, what makes you different than being a white cis male or something. And I just like jokes, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. So many ways you are just competing against. It's like when I don't know if you had this when you went to college, but like when we take boxes, like I have to take white, right? So I don't know if you, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah,
taking the
it's like
white box.
what box? Like there is no, maybe it's just the coasts. I think we're seeing the pendulum shifting the other way, but we've gotten away from like just funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's like funny, what's your story? You know what I mean?
Yeah, funny, but what it like? But tell me like where you stand.
Yes, like I want to be post-racial,
Yeah, yeah,
but we're not there yet. So that, and then just like there's no blueprint for a guy like me. Like if there's
yeah,
a funny white guy, we know what to do. Funny black guy, we know what to do. They just don't know where the dollar signs are with me when you're just like funny, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah,
And then I'm not brown enough to like get the brown dollar. So it's not super obvious where the money's coming from.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And like the ones they do let in, like it's not like you could have a million white guys who do a certain thing. When it comes to brown guys, there's a little more of a bottleneck. It's almost like that Masters of None episode where he's like, there can't be two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I got onto that show really late, but when I watched
Uh-huh.
it, I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely on.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. And Rami too. Like I think Rami really opened some doors there. And
Totally. And like Rami is great too. I love Rami. But again, that's one of those things of like, and I think it's very important, and it's great that shows like this exist, but it's again speaking to that very unique experience.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like it's almost like white people want a window into like this culture. It's like whereas if I just want to do something funny, and I've done it before, where like I go into a meeting, I pitch something, and it's just funny for funny's sake. It's just sort of like, what do we do with that? You know?
Do they say that?
Yeah. No, but it's the writing's on the wall. I can tell. That's why I did this one Instagram sketch where, I'm pitching this idea for a sitcom in the meeting. I'm like, it's a workplace comedy.
Yeah.
And he's like, and you're like a refugee in it? And I'm like, no, I'm just like a regular guy. He's like, okay, but you're torn between like East and West sensibilities and your parents. And I'm like, nah, I'm just like a regular guy in a workplace. And he's like, well, we could just get that from a white guy. And he's like, I guess, but I think I have a unique perspective outside of being a brown person. He's like, yeah, we'll look it over and we'll let you know about it. And then I'm like, I can be a refugee. And he's like, you can? And I'm like, yeah. Maybe like we see my mom, like she's about to get shot in a killing field. He's like, then he starts taking his pants off and he's like, oh yeah, fuck yeah.
But maybe that's your story. Like that's like, have you started watching Dave?
Yeah, it's a great show. I love Dave.
Dave is kind of like, he's like just trying to be a rapper, but he's like, oh, but you're white and you're trying to like, it's a story about not fitting in a box and he just wants to be the thing first.
Yeah. But you need people to have that vision. And I think I'm close and I'm on my way to getting there where people will just sort of like appreciate the comedy for comedy and kind of like look beyond the name and skin tone and just see a person for a comedic voice.
Yeah.
But sometimes like it takes a little longer for people to catch on in this town, because everything is sort of like, I want my steak cut up for me. I don't want to have to, everyone's too busy to kind of connect the dots.
Totally. Did you ever think about like anglicizing your name being like Frank Adams?
It's like way too late for me to do that.
No, but like in the early days, did we ever?
No, I never thought about that. I guess I was kind of naive and just like had this youthful optimism that like, it just didn't even cross my mind that would be maybe a hurdle to overcome.
Yeah. I think it is. I don't think it is now, especially nowadays. It's better that you're not Frank
nowadays.
Adams.
Again, it depends though. Like, are you leaning into the thing or are you not? So I don't know. I kind of look. I'm happy. Whatever things have gone the way they are. I wouldn't be the person I am if it didn't go the way it was. But sometimes I do play this alternate scenario where maybe for a guy like me who just does regular comedy, if say I did have a more Anglo name or whatever, would things be a little different?
Yeah.
But I like keeping my name, like I like that tie to my culture and my people.
I thought about being Larry Taylor, but if like I ever got like a big accolade or saw my name on a marquee and it said Larry Taylor, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, but that's just a million people do that though.
Yeah, like Tom Cruise and
all of your favorite actors. You think Earthquake's name is Earthquake?
Or Meatloaf or
you think Meatloaf's name is really Meatloaf?
Yeah. And you have a great manager.
Oh yeah. Andy,
I love Andy. He's awesome. What are your like strategy meetings like when you and him get together and be like, so like Fahim 2020, like what are we trying to do?
it changes. It's very nimble. It's not like set in stone. And I have a good relationship with him. So if I have an idea, I can just like hop on the phone and like we can hash it out. Like a good manager is just someone you can always get a hold of, someone who knows what you want to do and who like gets you and doesn't try to push you into things that aren't you. And if they do, they know you, they like, just trust me on this one. Like they get where you're coming from, some managers just they it's like a whole lip service and they don't really get you, and that's not good.
And what was the impetus of getting a manager? Did he approach you? Did you approach him?
I kind of had I bounced around a bit. I had a manager when I was at Boeing. That was my first one, and then I was with her for like a year or two, and then I had just left Boeing, and that was kind of a scary time when things dry up a bit, and you leave something like Boeing, and then you're not getting as much work. And even if they're like decent or whatever, like you feel the water levels rising. You're like, I got to shake things up, regardless, good or bad. I just can't be going the way things are.
Yeah.
Like I just got to switch up the scenery. So I left that manager, and then I just had bad luck with some like just didn't connect with like one or two after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I was just like, I'm done with manager. I don't need it.
Right.
Because historically, like they're taking a percentage, and if they're not value added,
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather just keep that money if my life isn't any different. So I just cooled it with the manager thing for several years. I didn't have a manager. I just had an agent. And then when I was at CAA, Andy was an assistant there.
Mm-hmm.
But he's kind of the reason that like he told them about me, because he was always hanging out at the Comedy Store.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the dark ages of the Comedy Store. Like no one was coming around. It wasn't like the hot spot that it is now. So, everyone cared about Meltdown. Everyone was over there, and they wouldn't really branch out anywhere else. But Andy would always see this like great stuff going on at the Comedy Store, and he would catch me going up late there, and he's like, this guy is great, blah, blah. And so that's how I got over at CAA, and we had that relationship. And then he climbed the ranks, and then eventually he became manager at Brillstein.
Mm-hmm.
And then I still was like, I don't know about manager, but then, we just become so close, and it just seemed like a fit. So that's why finally I was like, yeah, I'll have a manager. Let's do it, Andy,
Right. He came by the Comedy Bunker and he gave me his card, and he's like, we stayed in touch. And every time he suggested someone for the show, they were always awesome. So he's got great taste as well.
Yeah. He's got a good eye too. It's crazy. There's some people who work in comedy who like don't like comedy.
Don't like it?
Or it's just a job. It's just a job for them.
Yeah. Or they get jaded about it maybe over time.
Yeah. You'd be surprised at some people who work in comedy who don't have like taste.
Yeah. You're around like 50,000 followers, right? 50, 60?
Yeah.
I always hear a lot of people saying like, oh, if I only had 50,000 followers, I would be getting this tour, this thing.
Yeah.
As someone who's, recently popped, right, to that level,
I guess.
do you feel that any of those things are true? That like, if I only had this many followers, my life would be different?
Life isn't that much different, but I will say, and it was very hard to get, even I don't think it's this many followers that much, because I see people out there with like hundreds and thousands. This is just, I have 56 or whatever on IG. But I will say, I think once you reach a certain threshold, it becomes easier. There's this perception game amongst people where, say, the stuff that I'm creating and the stand-up I'm doing with less followers
Mm-hmm.
isn't as easy for the public to accept.
Right.
Or want to share. Like you're not viewed as this thing yet.
It's social proof.
Whereas, it's this, it's like monkey stuff.
I think you hit something on your phone. Oh.
Sorry, I was getting a phone call. It was Andy, and I hung up for you, dude. I'm like, yeah, he's such a great manager. Fuck this guy. But yeah, once you have a certain number of followers, it becomes easier for people to be like, check this guy out, blah blah blah. They view you as a comedic entity now.
Right.
Whereas before you might just be a funny guy with like 2,000 followers. And again, it ties back to like branding and perception, and yeah.
Are you any different from where you were a year ago in terms of like how funny you are, all the content you're creating? No, but you have.
I would like to say no. You know what I mean?
You have a bigger audience now, and it's like so you've had these pops that have like, I mean, like Rogan was a big pop, and then this is a pop,
Mm-hmm.
and now your audience keeps building, and it does. It's like it's hard because it's kind of like investing money. It's like if you want to get rich tomorrow, you kind of can't do it unless you just put it all on 14 on the roulette wheel and it happens to come up.
Yeah.
But if you start every day getting better, growing, audience building, it's like compound interest. So like you'll look back in a couple of years and be like, oh wow, like I'm doing all these things, I have my own show, and it just kind of happens over time. And you have a stronger foundation in a way because like you've built it from the ground up.
Yeah, totally. It's this organic thing where people like to hear about what's the big break.
Yeah,
What was your big break? And I just don't think that happens anymore, really, especially in stand up. It's just a compilation of all these little things that add up and you don't even know it.
exactly.
And then one day you look back and you're like, oh, I've done all these things. Like, oh, I've done several late nights.
Yeah, yeah,
I've done like that sketch show. I was cast in this thing. And then you just kind of make enough fans as you make your way through this thing called show business. And eventually you'll have enough allies where then it's like a snowball rolling downhill. It's a lot. But getting up that hill is so hard, you know. But if you love what you do, that's part of the fun. And
oh yeah, you have to love the journey.
yeah,
If it doesn't work out, I mean, it's obviously going to work out.
engineering.
Engineering, no music,
Can we go
man.
back to
You
Boeing?
could just you could be a music A&R, man. You got great ears, you know, like
Yeah,
you're.
man. Yeah, I love that talk we
Look
had
how
because
excited he got already.
I have had that dream of like, oh man, I'd like to be an A&R guy or like own a label or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think my skill is I hear a song and I just know if it's good or not or different. Like I feel like I can be very objective
yeah, yeah.
when it comes to music. Like I'm not a guy swayed by top 40 or I can hear something and for me at least know if it's inherently good
Right.
given my taste or whatever.
Because your podcast is the Fahim Anwar Dance Hour,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
in there you always play like a song which you've discovered on your
Yeah.
own.
Yeah, a song at the beginning and a song at the end. So I just like sharing those discoveries and then chatting with my buddy for an hour.
And you were a big influencer on Hypebeast,
Or Hype
Hype
Machine.
Machine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If I favorite your track or if I tweet your track, I can send it to the top of the Twitter charts, bro. Because I've been on there forever. Like I was an early adopter to Hype Machine. So whenever whenever I like tweet a track, it adds a lot of points to the artist.
Yeah, you could just dilute your brand and charge a few $100 to tweet.
No, but then people are
They're gonna know you sold out.
They're not gonna come to me for the trusted source.
When you super make it, you can blow your first 10 million on giving your brother a record label.
Yeah. My whole point is to get big enough in comedy where I just start my own record label.
Yeah.
And I give up on comedy.
We usually wrap up the show talking about goals for 2020, talking about like what you want to achieve, kind of, verbalizing and putting them out there so they're in the universe. Like, what are some of the things you want to get done in 2020?
All right, Corona free, right? Corona free is number one. I would say another stand-up special.
Nice.
And a sketch show.
Because you had already, I thought, a great stand-up special called
There's No Business Like Show Business.
There's No Business Like Show Business.
Yeah, Comedy Central just put it on their YouTube for free.
Oh,
so it's out there now. Yeah.
And you've been chopping it up and putting it on your Instagram?
Yeah, that's kind of how I grew the past year. I was just like chopping it up, putting captions on it. And it was some of them would take off on Instagram. But Instagram recently changed their algorithm, which really sucks. It's so hard to grow on there now.
Oh,
they
really?
just want people to pay. Yeah. I would get stuff that would get like 100,000 views or 200,000 views, and now the max will be like 20,000 views.
Oh, so they're just like they want you to pay to advertise, essentially?
Yeah. They really like throttle it down.
Oh man, I guess it's a powerful platform, and more people join every day, and it's like, and more stand up every day. That's always one thing I think about is like, is it saturated with too much stand up? And then you're like, well, no, there's always enough. There's always unlimited.
Yeah.
And if it's good, it's good, and it'll find an audience.
Yeah, and I kind of realize everything is changing, and I don't know, just because things are the way they were doesn't mean you have to keep on pining for that way of doing things.
Right.
And it may be ancient and prehistoric, because there was a point where I feel like I write a lot. I have a lot of stuff, and I come up with material, and I've been like, oh, I want a special. I want like, why won't they give me a special? All this stuff. And it just wasn't there for me at the time and all that. And then this past year, I'm like, why don't I be less precious with the material and just put it on Instagram? Because that's kind of like Netflix, everyone has it. It's not region protected. People's attention spans are short anyways. Like,
it builds your audience.
It builds it's like you're able to put your foot on the gas while you wait for this other thing that may or may not come through. But just sitting and waiting is a terrible business strategy.
Absolutely. Like someone in your position, if you could say like, I could have what, an hour is what, 20 good clips?
Yeah.
Up today and up for a year, or wait a year and get that special. Like, it's hard to say that waiting is going to make you better, like build your audience bigger over that year.
Totally. You're not going to be better off waiting for this hot chick to be into you. You know what I mean? And just one of the biggest lessons or pieces of advice I can give is like, don't wait for someone to tell you you can do something you already know you can do.
I love that. That's going to be one of the clips from this pod.
Yeah.
What is your writing process?
It's now, I mean, I've just been doing it so long now. I live my life, and if I get an idea, I'm very good at recognizing the idea, and then I'll pull my phone out and I'll jot it down. So just enough words to capture the idea.
In notes?
Evernote. I use Evernote. So whether it's a sketch idea, a stand-up idea, any type of idea, like even if it's bad or whatever, like at least give yourself the chance to flesh it out at a later time, you know? So yeah, I just think, again, another good piece of advice is just write down the ideas when you get them.
So you get an idea like coconuts are funny, and then you put that in there, and then you come and you write it out on paper later, or you type it up in the computer?
Nah, I'll just kind of like, I'll like jot enough words, like a stenographer kind of, just to capture enough of the ideas around whatever the topic is. And then I'll have shows throughout the week, and I'll put together a set list, and there will be bits that I've some tried and true bits. And then I'll be like, do I want to inject some new, like what new stuff do I want to try? So I'll go through my like bits note. So I'll have a set list note and like a bits note that just has everything.
Okay.
And so if I want to try some new stuff, I'll just go through my bits note and be like, oh, let me try this one, put that on the set list.
I started doing like, I bring the piece of paper on stage, and like left hand is like bits that I know are already done, and then right hand is like new stuff. So if I want to bounce back and forth, I have
you do a column A, column B.
Too much school, you know?
Yeah, I just have my phone. I'll load up the set list that I've written out, and I just put it, so it's on my phone. I can read it from the phone.
Yeah. I always fumble with my phone, or like, call will happen, or I'm
recording. I just open up. I put it in airplane mode, pull the note up. Put it on the stool. I can read all the things, and I'm also recording the set.
Yeah.
It's just the multifaceted. The phone's the best thing to happen to stand-up comedy.
Oh, for sure. It's your creation platform. It's
my notepad. It's my recording. It's my video camera. It's just, it's like a movie studio.
Yeah. Thank God for phones. Well, dude, this is awesome, man. I feel like we could talk for a long time, and I really appreciate you doing the pod. And
man, thanks for having me.
You know, it's nice to look in the little mirror for a couple hours.
We got to get away from the mirror though. This is too much.
Yeah.
Here, we should do a thing. Here, let's spruce our hairs. Pretend we're doing it at the same time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, anyways, Fahim, thanks for doing the pod.
Latif, thanks for doing it. It's been great.
Yeah. Anytime.
Yeah. Enjoy your beautiful condo in Encino. Living the life.
Hey, Tarzana. Someday I'll be in Encino.
Oh, that's across the water, Encino?
Yeah, it's a little nicer Encino, but
nice.
That's why they had Encino Man, the movie.
Oh yeah, with what's his face?
Pauly Shore and Brendan Fraser.
Pauly Shore was in it? Wow. See, we tied it all
you
back.
You gotta rewatch it.
I'm gonna watch it tonight, bro.
That'll be a good quarantine watch.
Well, call your manager back. Tell him you're still alive, and thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks
we'll
again,
do.
man.
Yeah, of course.
Later.
Take it easy.